Hello and welcome to the Football Show here live on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. I'm your host for this afternoon, Blair Malloy. I'm joined by Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell and Tam McManus. Today we'll be talking all things Scotland after that win against Croatia on Friday night. That sets us up nicely for the game against Poland this evening. We'll run through all the permutations as Scotland could almost finish second in the group, or they could also be relegated from Set A of the Nations League. Among other things, we'll also be talking about Liam Scales picking up that red card for Ireland against England as Lee Carsley's men won 5-0 to win promotion back to Set A in the Nations League. We'll also be discussing Nicolas Khun potentially getting a call-up for Germany. Could Philippe Clement be going back to the Belgium national team? And Thomas Tuchel taking over the England job, as well as Scottish Championship news. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you like our content here on PLZ Soccer. You can also follow us across all of social media platforms. We're on X, we're on Facebook, we're now also on Blue Sky, which I hear is where everyone is off to these days. But starting off, Scotland won, Croatia 0. Ruffy, a win over Croatia under any circumstances is definitely something to be proud of.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, we didn't think it was going to come, but you'll take any win at international level. Obviously, the sending off turned the game a wee bit. I thought it could have went either way. You know, they were still trying to get a goal as well. So, no, I think it just shows you if you win a game like that, it lifts everybody, it keeps you hanging on in there. And obviously, the permutations that will come up when we talk about it later on. But it's a win, you know, it's something we haven't witnessed for a long, long time. So I'm sure the players would have taken a great deal of heart out of it. The supporters are right behind. So you get into a game with a wee bit of positivity.
Tam, as Ruffy touched on there, the red card, it changed the game.
Yeah, it did. I thought Croatia started better than us. I thought they had control of the game in the middle of the park, which is unusual because that's probably we were strongest. I thought that they created some opportunities early in the game. The red card is a red card for me. You know, it could even have been a straight red, never mind a second booking. You know, catches them high up in the knee. And then after that, it was just a question of could we break them down? And eventually, you know, Ben Doak does superbly well. He was fantastic on the night. Somebody that we've really lacked, a winger. He goes by the full-back again and we get the goal from it. So I thought it was a great result for us and it puts us in the mix to possibly finish second.
We will come on to Ben Doak a little bit later, but credit to Scotland, even though Croatia going down to 10 men, even still to be able to take that game to Croatia and take control of it in that situation, it shows how far the Scotland team has come to take control of a game like that.
Yeah, there was no panic, there was no lumping it up the pitch, you know, in panic stations and kind of running out of time. We kept moving the ball, kept moving Croatia about side to side. Eventually we got a little break, you know, lovely bit of skill for Doak and then John McGinn puts it away. But yeah, I thought we thoroughly deserved to win the game on the second half performance. Listen, Croatia are down to 10, but they've still got some superb players and they kept the ball at times pretty well. So I think on the back of the Portugal result, the draw at home and then winning, I think just the tide's turning a little bit for Steve Clarke in terms of results.
One of those superb players that Tam mentioned there, Luka Modric, 39 years old. He was still an absolute joy to watch on Friday night.
Yeah, I think he just pulls the strings. I think you know what you're going to get. He's going to try and dictate play. I think he's world class. He's a player he's been a generational talent for Croatia alongside some other pretty formidable players, and you only need to look at where these guys are all playing their football to know the level that you're up against. So I think it was a fantastic result for Scotland. I think much needed. I think it offers some intrigue now into this Poland game if Scotland could manage to get a result, get a win against Poland, coupled with then obviously the other results elsewhere. It could potentially lead to a really important World Cup season, which I'm sure we're going to come on and have a chat about as we go deeper into the programme. But just in terms of Friday night, I thought it was massive. I thought it was really necessary. And I think Ben Doak, I think Scotland are crying out just to get a glimpse of the boy. I think he was very unlucky not to be involved at the Euros because of what happened. I think there's been a clamour to see him in, and the manner in which he just showed no fear against a fullback of such repute, I think just augurs well for him going forward.
Yeah, we will come on to Ben Doak a little bit later on in the programme. Here is how the group looks at the minute after that win against Croatia. And I'm going to do my best here to talk through the permutations of what it means tonight against Poland. So essentially, Scotland need a 3-goal swing to finish second. Like I said, we can finish second, but we can also finish bottom. If Scotland win by 2 or more goals and Croatia lose, we will finish second. If Scotland win by 1 goal and Croatia lose by 2 or more goals, then they'll finish second. If Scotland win and Croatia draw or win, we'll finish third. or if Scotland draw or lose, then Scotland will finish fourth. So we need to avoid drawing or losing to have some sort of contention to still be in that pot. And of course, this is important not just for the Nations League, but it also has a bearing on where we finish in World Cup qualification. And being in that top set of the Nations League, it obviously means harder fixtures. Does that help, Ruffy, with the progression of this squad?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you want to challenge yourself against the better sides. You obviously want to try and win some of them, which obviously helps along the way. But if it means being in that top division and ending up third and fourth and ending up third choice, fourth choice in a World Cup draw, it's not going to help us whatsoever, because I think the World Cup now is just the top team goes through, which makes it even harder. So you're going to be up against two really big ones, if you're in that pot three. So it's important that we try and get just what you've said there now, but I think it's a big ask. I really do. I mean, Scotland haven't won an away game, and we're talking about them having to go and maybe win 2-0. Croatia haven't lost a game at home. They're not the kind of team that gets turned over 2 and 3. Portugal have released most of their players, so it's just going to be a swings and roundabouts, and you don't know how either of these teams are going to take part in that game.
Tam, are you in the camp of you would rather see Scotland in that top set, playing harder games where the record may suffer a little bit?
Yeah, that's the only way you're going to learn as a player, is playing top class opposition. Scotland would learn nothing playing Andorra or Gibraltar or San Marino. 11 men behind the ball, try to break them down. If you're going, you're playing against the best, you're testing yourself against the best, then you can only improve as a player. And I think we'll see Ben Doak obviously playing against a real top player in Gvardiol. He gave him a hard time, and he'll take so much confidence from that. So, no, listen, obviously the results are going to suffer because of that. You're not going to win a lot of games in that top pot, but I think with the performances that we're putting in, we're not too far away from that kind of top pot, top seeding, and we've been competitive in near enough all the games.
It does, of course, mean harder games, Alison, and maybe the record, Steve Clarke's records, has suffered a little bit because of that. Do you think he's maybe getting too much of a hard time because of the standard of opposition?
I think there's probably been a fallout from the Euros. I think there was probably a hangover from just the performance level at the Euros. I think people went there with an anticipation that the challenge would be greater, that Scotland would compete better. I thought it was limp. I think there was a real unease just about the manner of the defeats, the games, the point obviously that they took, but I think people had just expected so much more. So I'm not sure if it's maybe a combination of those factors. However, I do think it was such a long time to go without a competitive win. If you even look at the run of games running up to the Euros, I think is it 14 months without a win. And I agree with what Ruffy was saying, that now all of a sudden you win a game and it's like, oh, go to Poland and you'll get 2 games. You've not done it for 14 months, but you'll manage to do it back to back. I think it's got to be the ambition, it's got to be the aim, whether or not it's realistic to do so. I think the game against Poland will be as challenging, maybe for slightly different reasons, but it will be as challenging as the game against Croatia at Hampden on Friday night. I think Poland have it's a pretty formidable squad when you look down the list, and obviously big talents within it too. But yeah, I think the key judgment area that Steve Clarke keeps talking about is World Cup qualification, and we know how difficult that's going to be in the next campaign. So I think anything in this Nations League progress that takes them into a fighting position and gives them a chance of making it to the USA and Mexico and Canada in 2026, you've got to try and take it, because getting to the World Cup is going to be almost impossible for Scotland if they slip down the rankings, or certainly you're going to be having to go up against big European heavyweight teams, because you've only got the 12 European winners from the World Cup campaigns who then obviously go through and qualify.
One man who will be integral if we're to get to that World Cup, he's the man that everyone is talking about, is Ben Doak. When is the last time Scotland have produced a player that can do something like that to Gvardiol? I seen someone on Twitter said they had him on the waltzers. I thought that was an incredible turn of phrase, but he just looked so exciting on Friday. Yeah,
he does, and I think he's been a player that a lot of Scotland fans have known for a few years now. I think he obviously broke into the first team at Liverpool very young. We were all excited to see him in the Euros. Unfortunately, he couldn't go. He picked up an injury. So, listen, it's just one of those where you've just got to be patient with him. I understand that Steve wants to wrap him in cotton wool. He's talking about we want him for the next 10, 15 years. I get that, but I think he's ready now, and I hope he plays tonight. I know Steve's talking about maybe resting him, or you've got to play him. I think with a big game like this with Scotland, you've got to play your best players, and he gets people off their seats. You know, you felt the buzz every time he got the ball the other night at Hampden.
He sense anticipation. He sense he's going to do something.
Something's going to happen. It's a long time, you're right, it's a long time since we've had a player like that who squares a full back up and goes by him. It's really exciting to watch, and as I said, we're going to need that tonight. We're going to have to score 2 or 3 goals. I don't see us keeping a clean sheet in Poland. We're going to have to score 2 or 3 goals to get through.
Is he the most exciting since McFadden?
Yeah, probably. I can't really off the top of my head remember anyone who got the supporters out their seat. James McFadden obviously done that, and then you've gone back, you know, to Ruffy's time, Ruffy's era. So yeah, I think he's ready now. I hope he plays tonight. I hope Steve doesn't rest him, and because I think he's a very exciting young player to watch.
Ruffy, Ben Doak came into the mix zone on Friday night, and the thing that really struck us all is just how relaxed he is. How he said, I don't see the name on the back of the jerseys, I just see 11 guys who I want to beat, which is incredibly refreshing for 19, whatever he is. Is it great to have that mindset at that young age to go all the way to the very top?
I think you've got to have, you know, because everybody's going to have an input in what you're doing in the game. You know, and Tom's touched on it briefly there. You know, I hope it doesn't take him out of the equation as well. You know, and I know where Steve Clarke's coming from. It might be a different formation early on, you know, but we all hope it isn't, because obviously they'll have witnessed what he did to the top class defender. So I hope he plays. But he seems to be a young lad who seems to blank everything out. You know, obviously being at a top club, surrounded by a lot of seniors, it brings you on your confidence. And if he thinks he's the bee's knees, then so be it. You know, I mean, that's what we're gonna see. You know, and I hope we do see it, and he's one for the future.
Well, here's what Scotland boss Steve Clarke had to say about the 19-year-old ahead of tonight's game against Poland.
A lot of people see the good things that he does. Me and my coaching staff being a little bit more analytical, I'll see other things that he doesn't do quite so well, because he's only a young player and he's looking to learn. I think he's in a good environment at Middlesbrough in terms of learning the game and working on the game. When I watch his progress there from when he got into the team to now, he's improved already, in my opinion. He's improved already. But a lot to work on going over the years, but at the moment we can all be, or you guys can all be excited a little bit about what he does with the ball.
Alison, Steve Clarke talked there about having to protect a player like Ben Doak. Is that a very Scottish thing, that we have to say we have to let these players, wrap them in cotton wool? Could we just let him go and express himself?
Yeah, I think there is a kind of culture of maybe waiting until players are a bit older before bringing them in, almost waiting until they're established at first team level. However, we know he's out on loan at Middlesbrough. I think he started every game so far this season in the Championship. I think if you to judge it purely on his last performance, well, he merits to keep his place. I think he looks ready. I think he looks mature enough to go and handle the pressures of international football, and I do appreciate where he's coming from in that you're saying you don't want a whole lot of noise and hype around one particular player, and then he has a bad game, he has an off game, and all of a sudden then you're trying to hold the tide at bay when there's all sorts of criticism perhaps coming his way. However, I think he's ready. I think you look at how he conducts himself, how he speaks, but mostly how he performs. And he didn't look overawed, he didn't look out of place. And I think just going in and looking ahead to the World Cup qualification campaign, I think this is an ideal time to bring in players, bed them in, give them an opportunity, let them see what international football is about, and it prepares the way for a new campaign.
Ruffy, is he a first team player for you now?
Yeah, I agree with the guys. I don't know why we're wrapping him up in cotton wool. He's only played, twice, 3 times? You know, if he was going into a team and we were getting beaten, he was suffering, fair enough. But we're on a wee bit of a winning run now. We've won a game, you know, we've got a draw.
We're on a run now.
You know, so why wrap him up in cotton wool? Just throw him out there and go, let's see what you've done. And if you look round it, I mean, I can't think a lot of young boys that were thrown in. The one that immediately comes to me is Wayne Rooney. I mean, Wayne Rooney was thrown in there and he was a breath of fresh air. He was doing things that other people weren't doing at that age. So let's see what he can do. Let's see what he's got, you know, and put the frighteners up with everybody we're playing.
Yamal.
Yeah, I mean, you look at people like Lamine Yamal. Does that prove that if you're good enough, you're old enough?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's always been the case. I think you can, obviously as a manager, you want to, you nurture young players through and not burn them out. You've seen that in the past as well. But the only way to learn is by playing games. And I think he's got to play tonight. I think it depends on what system. I don't think Scotland will be, going all out attack early doors against Poland. I think they'll try and settle into the game, and maybe he'll come on in the second half. Maybe that's what Steve's planning. But I hope he plays. I hope he starts the game because, as I said, he's the one player on their team who can go and beat and commit people, and that opens it up for other players. So I hope he plays.
Alison, Ben Doak isn't the only one of this young talent that's coming through. We do seem to be on the cusp of a new cycle. Ben Doak at 19, Lennon Miller at 18, I'd even go Conor Barron 22, Tommy Conway 22, Max Johnson 20, David Watson 19. It seems like we're at the beginning of a new cycle for Scotland.
Yeah, you would like to think so. You would certainly think that's the direction it's going. I was really impressed by David Watson last season. I thought he was excellent. One young player of the year. I thought he had a tremendous campaign. I'm not sure yet if international football is if he's quite there, particularly for an area of the pitch where Scotland are so well served. But you would like to think that's the direction of travel for him. Lennon Miller, another one. I think the longer it goes when he's performing this way, I think what you'll find is every camp there will be a bit of noise around whether or not he's going to go in, especially once you start looking at the World Cup qualification campaign. I think the next international camp now isn't till March, once we finish the round of international games. I think if he's still playing the way he is for Motherwell, I think there'll be certainly a hope that there's some international recognition. If it's not quite then, it's coming for him. So I think it's exciting for the national team. You want to see these players continuing their development. You want to see them exposed to first team situations, under pressure in games, and moving on. Lennon Miller, of course, by that point could well have moved on. If I think Motherwell might have a job in January trying to keep him at the club just because he's had such an impressive campaign so far.
Well, most of these ages that you read at, they're 22, 21.
Yeah, so you've got Conor Barron 22.
What were you, Tom? Were you under 23?
Under 21s, I was. Under 21s.
I think there's a 2-year void, of after.
There was a B squad, right enough. There was a B squad that kind of.
And when we played, there was 23. Now these guys at 21, after that, kind of get into the under 21 team. There's a 2-year of going nowhere.
Do you think there should be a bridge between
I like the 23. I think you get more of a challenge, and you get more players of that age group who are they're not breaking through at 18, 19, but they might break through at 20, 21, 22. So you've got more of them to more competitive games. But I think the good thing about the 21s is they're going away and they're playing in competitions, and they'll get better for that. I just find that after they're not available for under 21, there's nowhere for them to go international wise.
Do you agree with that, Tam? Do you think we're missing a trick, and that players, if they're not a superstar by 18, if they maybe take to 22, 23 to develop to their full potential, they may have got lost in the system a little bit?
Yeah, possibly. I was lucky enough to play with Scotland B team, and that was a kind of bridge between the under 21s and the full squad. Bertie Vogts took the B squad as well for some games, and there was majority was all younger players, but there was some older players in it as well who I played with. So, yeah, I think it's something that they could possibly look at. I think the under 21s is obviously great. You're playing in European competitions. You're trying to qualify for the Euros. The under 23s could possibly be maybe bounce games or friendly games against other nations, like the B squad. But yeah, it's possibly something that could be spoken about with the SFA.
One of those players who did make his first start against Croatia, Tommy Conway, 22-year-old. Tam, talk to me about being a lone striker in a team where you don't see much of the ball, because it looked like a hard shift for the boy.
Yeah, it's the most difficult thing to do in football, I think. I think the last one we had was really good at it was Kenny Miller. I thought he was perfect for the role. He was mobile, he could run in behind, he worked hard, he put defenders under pressure. And then when the chance came, he could score goals. So it's a difficult role to play. You need service in that role. You need wingers that can go by people and cross the ball. And we've got one at the minute, Ben Doak. If we'd won the other side of Ben Doak, then I think he'd be quite happy, Tommy, to play up front himself. But I thought he looked sharp in different aspects of the game. Didn't really have a lot of opportunities to score, but I think he looks mobile, he looks quick, he can run in behind, and I think that's something that we've been lacking. That's what Lawrence Shankland and Lyndon Dykes lack, is that pace to go in behind, and I think Tommy looks more mobile than both of them. So I don't know whether he'll play tonight. Maybe he'll bring one of the established strikers back in, but I think when you're playing away from home, you need pace up front to make sure that they don't push too high up the pitch. So I would actually, if that squad's available, the team from the other night, I would just play the same again. I would just go the same 11.
Is that what we're missing, Ruffy? A top-class centre-forward?
It's obvious. We've not got a goal scorer. You know, most of our goals are coming from midfield. I don't have a problem with that as long as the midfielder know the score. You know, you saw it the other night there. Every time Doak got to the position that Tom's talking about, the midfield knew if they were running about the 18-yard box, he was going to cut it back or he was going to fire it across. So as long as the rest of the team know, but Tom's right, our strikers aren't getting goal scoring opportunities. You know, you're looking for a striker who can manoeuvre it himself, and we don't have that kind of player. We're relying on other people doing it for him.
Well, one area of the park we're certainly not short in is central midfield. Billy Gilmour, he spoke yesterday, ahead of the game against Poland about his time in Italy playing under Antonio Conte at Napoli.
Been very warm, that's for sure. Very warm. So, aside from that, the football side been doing well. Enjoying different life over there. Try to settle in as quick as possible. The boys in the team have been very good, and of course try to learn the language. So it's all very different, but excited. He's look, I've only started working with him, but he's you can see from the past clubs he's worked with, he's a serial winner. Works hard, gives 100% into everything, and like Steve Clarke as well. For us, since he's been in and since I've came in, it's all about trying to change the mentality of for Scotland, and I think he's done that impressively.
Alison, that can only help the develop of our players going further afield and playing abroad.
I don't think there's any question about it. I think if you look back at the teams Scotland have had that have been successful and have qualified consistently for major tournaments, you have players competing in the top leagues around the world, whether that's down south or further afield. I think it gives you an entirely different perspective on the game, gives you a different education on the game. I think it enhances your overall view of the game, development of the game. I think players tend to come back a better player. So I think it's fantastic to have Scott McTominay out there, to have Billy Gilmour out there. It's just seeing a different kind of culture around the game, and I think it's to Scotland's benefit.
Billy Gilmour spoke a little bit there about mentality. I wanted to ask Ruffy, when you played with guys who were maybe playing abroad, did you notice that they thought about the game differently when everyone met up at a Scotland squad if they were playing the league football in Europe?
We didn't have many played abroad. It was Stevie Archibald, he was with Barcelona, but most of the other team were all from England. But you can see the difference, you know. But when you're mixing with better players, you know, you have to raise your game to that level, you know. And I always found that the boys from England were very, very confident, you know, coming up against, say we were playing Belgium or Holland, whoever, they were competing against these guys down in England, you know, so it wasn't a big, oh God, look who we're playing against today. They've already tested themselves against them, and that was the benefit that they got. But no, I can see where you're coming from and what Alison's saying. If you're over in Italy and you're playing against world-class players, you know, you're obviously going to be better than you were before you got there.
I suppose it's almost if you look at it in the wider sense, I think it maybe just helps you grow as much as a person too. I think just having to learn a new language, it really takes players, I think, very firmly out with their comfort zone. I think it can really challenge it, and I think that's a good thing. I think that's where you get growth, it's where you get progression, it's where you get a bit of development.
I was the same when I went to America, and I had to learn English. So that was great for me
Slow
as well.
down a bit.
How long did it take you to get the national anthem? You've always got to sing.
You've got to, I used to sing it. I like it.
So did I thought it was good.
A lot of growth as a person out there, Tim.
It was fantastic, yes.
So before the game on Friday, something a little bit different. Patrick Mullen went out to challenge the Scotland fans on their knowledge of the national team before that win over Croatia. And just to note, all the answers were correct as of kick-off on Friday night.
The PLZ Soccer Quiz is on the road once again. This time we're testing the Scottish football fans to see how much they know about their national team. Question number 1. Who has scored more goals for Scotland? Ali McCoist or John McGinn?
John McGinn. I'd have said Ali McCoist.
John McGinn.
It's got to be McCoist. What do you reckon?
Ali McCoist just. John McGinn.
Ali McCoist. Ali McCoist.
Correct, we're 1 for 1. Question number 2. What was the score when Scotland played Croatia last month?
2-1. Aye, 2-1.
2-1.
Correct.
2-1.
2-1 to Croatia.
Correct.
2-1 Croatia. 2-1 Croatia.
Correct. Lyndon Dykes currently plays for which club team?
Somebody like Watford.
It's QPR, isn't it?
No, he's moved. Did he move? He's moved now. Portsmouth. Plymouth.
Oh, I don't know the place. He was with Queen's Park Rangers, but... Oh, he's still with Queen's Park Rangers.
QPR. QPR.
No.
Oh, some.
Birmingham City.
Birmingham City. 3 for 3.
Birmingham City.
Here we go.
League One.
How many games did Steve Clarke play for Chelsea? 421, 321 or 521?
I'm going to go bottom, 321.
500.
3-2-1. I always like, remember the TV show 3-2-1? But Ted Rogers.
I would have said 3-2-1 anyway.
3-2-1.
321.
521. 421.
Correct. And finally, how old is Scotland goalkeeper Craig Gordon?
40.
I was going to say 39.
He's too old. He's 37.
31.
38.
He's 41.
Correct, we got it.
41.
Correct, 4 out of 5, that's our best so far. Thanks for playing.
Well done to the kid at the end there who put the adults to shame, getting 4 out of 5. Now, we're not going to dwell on it too much because this game will be on this evening and a lot of our viewers may be watching it as the Poland game is happening. But just quickly, how do you see it going this evening?
I'm going to go for 2-1 to Scotland. I'm confident. I think we are showing signs of progression. I thought we should have beat them at home. And I think we can go there. We're going to need to score 2 or 3. I think we'll score 2-1.
Do you think the other result will go our way and we'll make it into second place?
No, I just don't think both will go for us. We're Scotland. That's not going to happen. So we're going to win 3-0 and Croatia will win or something. It's just going to be that one of those. But I think I fancy us to win tonight.
Are you as pessimistic as Tam here that it's not going to go for us?
Yes. Okay. I'd like to think that Scotland will go and get a win. I think it might be a draw this evening. I don't know that there's enough there to go and get the win. I hope I'm wrong and I'm happy to stand corrected if so. And also I don't know that both. I think you need so much to go in your favour to land second. I think maybe Scotland have just left it too late to try and get that second spot.
I'm hoping they win. I think they might struggle after getting hammered 5-1. You know, obviously there's a wee bit of unrest in the camp with certain players, blah, blah, blah. But it's something we've not done for a long time. You know, I hope we do, but I can't see us winning 2-0. You know, I can see us maybe winning 1-0. My biggest fear is the Croatian game. They haven't been beaten at home. You know, I think they're good enough to get a draw. Portugal have released all their big players. So I think it's going to be a nervy night right until the end. But I can't see a 3-goal swing.
Lots of optimism here on the PLZ couch. Leave your predictions in the comments. Just briefly before we move on, Alison, no international break now until March. We've had 3 so far since the beginning of the season. Are you quite happy now to see a run at club football? Have we become a bit oversaturated with international football?
Yeah, I think so. I think just in the back of the Euros too, I think it has felt like a lot of international football, particularly because of the Nations League campaigns and the additional matches that have been played. Yeah, I think a lot of people welcome a return to domestic football and a focus on domestic football.
Do you think there's been a little bit too much international football?
Yes, I don't like international football. I didn't like it when I was playing, obviously, because I used to not get picked for Scotland and we'd get a full weekend off if Scotland were playing. So, I've always preferred club football and I like the bread and butter of Scottish football. So hopefully, it's back this weekend.
When we come back, we'll talk about Nicolas Khun potentially getting a call up to Germany. Could Philippe Clement be on the way to Belgium? And a little bit about England winning 5-0. But first, here are your Daily News headlines brought to you by Arnold Clarke.
Hi there, I'm Kerry and here is your Daily News Roundup on Monday the 18th of November, brought to you by Arnold Clarke. Tonight Scotland take on Poland in the Nations League and Steve Clarke believes the team are certainly in a better place than what they were at the beginning of the campaign.
There's been a progression for sure. Obviously came in off the back of another appearance at a major tournament in the summer where we felt as though we could have done a little bit better. You have to build on that, you have to park that if you like and then move on, and I think we've managed to do that in this campaign.
Scotland midfielder Billy Gilmour admits he's excited about the young talent the country has to offer who will ultimately join international sides.
We know the players coming through, we've got a good squad here, and it's maybe just taking time. You have to ease them in, let them find their own feet, and we still have good players, still have players abroad as well. We've still got injuries. Lewis Ferguson's coming back, Patterson, Hickey, you can name them all, Ben Doak. So for us it's exciting times.
And finally, England interim boss Lee Carsley admits his time in charge of the team hasn't been the easiest, but is happy that they got over the line.
Yeah, I think there's, be fair to say, there's a bit of relief. You know, it's, I suppose if we'd have spoke at the start of the campaign, we probably would have said, well, you're expected to get promotion. But it's difficult. You know, no team has rolled over for us and let us just carry on.
For all the latest breaking headlines, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, and don't forget to download our app, which is available on Google Play and the App Store.
Just before we move on from the international football, it was England 5, Republic of Ireland 0 as England sealed promotion back to the top set in the Nations League. Celtic's Liam Scales sent off in that fixture didn't have the greatest nights up against Harry Kane, bringing down Jude Bellingham for that penalty at 0-0 when Ireland were holding their own before England went on to score 5.
Yeah, I think they made the most of that numerical advantage and then some. I think they ultimately just wiped the floor with him. I think he'll be disappointed with it. I think he'll be frustrated, and I think them going off it just probably cost Ireland the game.
That is, of course, Lee Carsley's last game in charge before Thomas Tuchel will come in the England camp. And Harry Kane was speaking today at the launch of his new statue, and he's looking forward to working again with the German boss.
Yeah, he'll put his own stamp on it, his own identity on it, especially the way we play and tactically. So, and look, we've got great players to choose from. We've got some young players who are playing really well. We've got some experienced boys now who have been there in major tournaments and had that experience. So, yeah, he'll know what to do. He's been there at the biggest clubs and, you know, performed at a high level. So for me personally, it'll be great to work with him again. I really enjoyed our time last year at Bayern, and it'll be interesting to see his views on, you know, how he sees us going forward. But yeah, I know he'll have one thing in his mind, and that's to win the World Cup.
Simple question, Tam. Will he be the man to win a World Cup for England?
No.
No. Why not?
I just think England struggle when they get to the final. I think that when they come up against a big nation, you've seen it in the last couple of tournaments, Italy in the final, Spain in the final, they seem to do well in the knockout stages, group stages, qualification, and then when they get to the nitty gritty and they come up against a big, you know, country, they struggle. So for me, I think they'll maybe get to the semis in the final again, but they're just a wee bit short for me.
One of the highest profile coaches maybe since Fabio Capello. Do you think he's the man for you? What will a Thomas Tuchel England look like?
I think we're all waiting to see. You know, I think every manager has different ideas, but I think, and I was watching the game the other night there, a lot of young players coming through again. You know, a lot of players getting a chance. I mean, World Cups, you know, for a couple of years to the finals. You know, I think they'll grow from there. And by the way, I say, see the next manager to come out and says it's very difficult to play against 10 men. He's talking a lot of baloney. Because last night Republic were doing very, very well, defending well, and I honestly couldn't see England breaking them down. They were so very, very well organised, and then they get into 10 men, and all of a sudden, whacked. But you know, I just feel that again it's a new era. They've still got a lot of players there, but a new era of players coming through. So it just depends on how they progress.
On to Thomas Tuchel's national side, Germany. This is an interesting stat that I dug out for today's show. They won 7-0 against Bosnia and Herzegovina in Freiburg, and they have played there 4 times, and every time they've played in that city, they've won 7-0. So that's an absolutely incredible stat that they turned up at this stadium and they just cannot help but win 7-0.
What teams did they take there?
Yeah,
so they have played.
It's not an illustrious list.
Kuwait, Malta and Luxembourg, but a 7-0 is a 7-0. You're taking it any day of the week. And it got me thinking about particular stadiums. Did you guys have it when you were playing? You were going to a particular ground and you thought, I can't get beat here today.
Tannadice for me. With Hibs, Dundee United.
Was that your pole dance celebration?
That was a pole dance. I scored a lot of goals against Dundee United. I mean, if I could play against Dundee United every week, I'd probably be about 100 caps. I've struggled against other clubs. Another 11. But no, it was just Dundee United for me, home and away. I just had a great record against them, and it's just one of them where you've got a great record. Tynecastle was the opposite. Never won there.
No, I never had a run of wins at any stadium.
Just good at them all.
No, just there's some games you know that you're going to be under pressure from a goalkeeping point of view, and you've got to produce the goods, and sometimes that happens at particularly Aberdeen or whatever, you know. But not a run of, oh God, I'm glad we're going the other day, you know, because they were all difficult for where we were.
And Germany boss Julian Nagelsmann, he's come out in the press and said that Nicolas Khun is a player that he's keeping his eye on. Very exciting times for Celtic fans. Nicolas Khun could get a call-up for the German national team. He's scored 10 goals and 11 assists so far this season. Would that be merited for you, Alison?
Yeah, I think it's a really difficult team to break into when you look at the players that will be in front of them and the quality that they'll be there to choose from. I think it's certainly an aspiration for him. I do think it's quite hard if you're playing in Scotland to get into a team like Germany. I've seen it time and time again where players really struggle to make a case for themselves. However, the comments themselves, I think will be encouraging. I'm sure the Celtic board would be delighted too if he gets called up to the national team, given how much interest there has been in him already, and the fact that there's quite a few clubs keeping tabs on him. I think he's one that, I think he could be the next big player, or the next player that moves out of Celtic for pretty significant money, probably in the summer rather than January. But I think he will certainly have ambitions now of going and trying to get into the national side.
Do you think that would be warranted, Tam, a call-up for his form so far this season?
Yeah, I think his performances in the Champions League were the ones that dictate it. I think, as Alison said there, our league's not the strongest, and I think that if you're the manager of Germany, you're picking most of the players from the Bundesliga or maybe the English Premier League. But if he does the business, he was outstanding, one of the best individual performances I've seen from a Celtic player against Leipzig. So if he does that in the rest of the games in the Champions League, he will definitely catch the manager's eye. But those are the games for me that he's got to play out his skin. If he does that, he maybe get a call up. But he's probably been, I think he has been the best player in Scotland this season. I think you've just said the stats there: 10 goals and 11 assists. Last season he really struggled. He didn't look fit, he looked out of sorts. But this season, totally transformed, and he's been superb this season.
You've just stole my next question there, Tam.
I think so. No, I do. I think so.
Is he the player of the season for you guys as well?
Oh, at this precise moment in time, yeah. We always seem to find somebody. I think last year it was Lawrence Shankland who was banging goals in left, right and centre. But, a lot of things can happen from now at the end of the season. Unfortunately, a lot of players pick up injuries and they're out for a wee while and then find it struggle to get back into it. But at this moment in time, I think he's the most exciting.
Is there anyone that can lay a glove on him in Scotland just now, Alice?
Not just now. I think he's been head and shoulders above everyone else at the minute. I think, I think the fact he struggled when he first went into Celtic last January, I think he'd an issue with wisdom teeth and then maybe an infection on the back of it. I think you've seen what looks like a different player this season. I think you can just tell the confidence that's within him. Even going back to Celtic's last game down at Rugby Park, he missed a chance just before he then scored the second goal. I think he just looks very at ease in his surroundings, very comfortable. Whereas last term, I think he looked jittery at times, he looked nervous at times. He looks like a player who's entirely transformed this season. But yeah, for me, head and shoulders just now the best player in the country.
There's another story that has caught my eye. Philippe Clement, could he be on the way back to Belgium? The story has emerged today that Philippe Clement is the favourite for the Belgium job if Domenico Tedesco was to be sacked. Belgium, of course, lost 1-0 to Israel and have a very poor record in the Nations League, winning one of just the last 6 matches. This seems to be emanating from the fact that Vincent Manhart was appointed the Belgian FA Sports Director. Now, Manhart was at Club Brugge as chief executive for 13 years, where they won 6 titles, and it was him that appointed Philippe Clement in 2019. Do you think if the opportunity to manage Belgium comes along for Philippe Clement, he takes it?
Yeah, I think he would. I think the Rangers supporters would be quite happy as well. I'm not convinced that a lot of Rangers supporters think he's a man for the job, and I think if he can go and you can get money for him, obviously it's just a rumour at the minute, but I think if he does go, I think that the Rangers fans wouldn't shed a tear. I think they'd be quite happy to get a new manager in with a fresh start and get maybe compensation for him. But you're right, there's obviously a fair tie in there with Clement and the Belgian FA Sports Director. So we just have to watch this space kind of thing. But I don't think that the Rangers fans would be gutted.
Playing devil's advocate, Ruffy, Philippe Clement has reiterated over and over again, it's a long-term project, I'm building something. Could we pay any heedance to that, or is he just saying that if this opportunity came up for you, would he jump at it?
Yeah, well, obviously he's the only one that can answer that, you know. But obviously, in the light of what's been happening over the last 2 or 3 months, I don't think it's been a comfortable ride for him at Rangers. He probably have a lot of sleepless nights with what's been going on, you know. And if something like that come up, he would have to seriously look at it, you know, as a big honour to be the manager of your own country. And again, he's the only one, you know. Does he say to himself, I'm fed up with all this stuff that's going on, I'm just going to take an easier life?
I think both of those things can be true. I think he can have an eye on building a long-term project. Whether or not that's a viable option at Rangers is an entirely different question, but I think he himself can be thinking, I'm in this for the long haul, I have a project here, and also then if something comes in that he's not anticipating, be interested in it. I think I think both are possible at the same time. I just wonder if maybe he thinks as though, well, that's a huge job, that's an offer, just maybe the day-to-day aspect that you would maybe miss out on just running a team and being part of it, because you know international football, you have big gaps within the season. It's not the same pressure of a day-to-day environment.
Tam touched on it there. Is there a world in which this is also a positive thing for Rangers, in which they almost, by definition, get given a fresh start without them having to take action?
Without doubt, and I think there was a contract signed just on the eve of the new season. So I think, I think it's been a very difficult opening months. We've heard the same philosophy repeated in various press conferences about almost a pleading for patience, a pleading for hang fire a second. This is a team that I believe will go in the right direction, but given where they are at the minute, given the lack of evidence for that on the team, if it continues in the same vein, then there is a decision for the Rangers board to make at one point. If someone else comes in, then it saves you that decision, and it saves you a decision at a time when that element of the club, you're struggling to see who's actually making that decision.
Do you agree with that, Tam? Do you think the Rangers board might also look positively on that if this wasn't to materialise?
Yeah, I think they would. As I said, I don't think that the Rangers supporters are convinced about the long-term project that Philippe Clement keeps going on about. I don't think you get long-term projects, not only in management, but particularly in Glasgow, in terms of Celtic and Rangers. So, listen, there's obviously a lot of water under the bridge until we get to that point, but I think that the Rangers supporters, the Rangers board wouldn't be too disappointed if it was to materialise.
Now, on to everyone's favourite division in Scotland, the Scottish Championship. Ruffy, Partick Thistle, talk to me about 5-1 at the weekend. That's an incredible performance.
Flying now, Ruffy.
It is an incredible performance,
well.
but I think if you saw anybody who was at the game would say the unfortunate Hamilton goalkeeper had an absolute shocker. Okay. But you can't take away 5 goals is 5 goals. I think it's now undefeated for 7 games now. A lot of them have been draws in there, but I think it's, looking at the league just now, I think it's 5-4. You know, I think that the 5 that's there will be the 5 that are going for all the positions. I can't see anybody, Wraith Rovers haven't come with a run. Airdrie have been really disappointing this year. Morton can't get a consistency between them. But it's a kind of league that, I mean, Thistle are going to Morton at the weekend. You know, it'll be a hard one. You know, and teams are dropping points all over the place. So I think Falkirk, although they lost at the weekend, I thought that was going to happen eventually. But Livingston and Falkirk look as if they're the 2 teams that will be there at the end.
You always say, Ruffy, it's all about timing in that division.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's where you have the run, when you have the run, you know. But I can't see anybody out with the 5 that's there going on a run. You know, I don't think they're capable of it. So I think it's going to be the playoff for 4 of that 5, and then see how it goes.
PLZ Soccer's very own Ryan McGowan at the back for Livingston. They masterminded a 1-0 win over Falkirk. Falkirk have been playing scintillating football this year, and Livingston turn up and win 1-0. That experience of David Martindale, that battle is going to be so interesting, him up against John McGlynn up until the end of the season.
Yeah, it's 2 completely different styles, 2 completely different outlooks in football. You've got John McGlynn, who plays open, expansive football, high press, and you've got David Martindale, who's, you're right, he's got experienced players, they're hard to break down. I think that's twice they've played Falkirk this season, and Falkirk's not scored a goal against them. I think it was 0-0 at Falkirk. So I think David has got a number, Falkirk. I think he knows how to get results against them. 4 points out of 6, but I agree with Ruffy. I think it's out of 2. I think United have not got the consistency, really, to go on a run Falkirk only three points ahead now. You know, that was a massive game for Falkirk. They could effectively have went miles clear and really put their foot down. But Livingston are still in. I still fancy Falkirk just because I think they'll win a lot more games at home. But Livingston are hanging about. They've got some good experience in their team, and they know how to get results.
As Ruff said, you can throw a blanket over that top 4-5 in the Championship. Do you think it would be positive to see the likes of a Falkirk who are playing attractive football coming back up from the Championship?
Yeah, I think it would. And I think they would fully merit it too, given the pathway to get there. I think they would offer a lot. I think you saw that in the Cup game when they played Celtic. Went with a fairly fearless approach. I know Celtic brought on players off the bench and came out of it fairly comfortably, but for an hour they competed well, asked questions, were organised, played, scored a couple of good goals, played good football. I think the league welcomes that at every turn.
Not only that, they've got a fan base that would be an asset to the Premier League. I think if you look at the gates, they're up 5, 6, 7,000. You know, gates that some of the teams in the Premier can't compete with. You know, so I think that would be an asset as well. But no, I think it will be close between these two. I do think Partick Thistle will get into the playoffs. I don't think that's a problem there. But it remains to be seen what happens later on. I think the bigger problem for they two is the AstroTurf. I think they're already in negotiations with the powers that be to say, do we need to, if we get promotion, do we need to have grass?
Do you think, just touching back on Partick Thistle, that experience that they've had in the last few years, consistently making it to the playoffs, they know when to come good, they know when to turn it on at the right part of the season?
Yeah, you would like to think that the hurt of failing, you know, in the last couple of years has affected a lot of them. I'm sure Brian Graham and the likes of the experienced players have been there and done it, so they won't want it to happen again.
And as Ruffy was saying there, Tam, you look at that big crowd that Falkirk are attracting, a crowd that rivals, if not overtakes, a lot in the top division. How important is that for them to have that fan base to guide them back up to promotion?
Yeah, listen, I was at Falkirk under John Hughes when they were in the SPL, and they were getting 6,000, 7,000 at the games. You know, I was in the Championship with Falkirk and we were near the top of the league and we were getting big crowds. They take a massive away support. They're a big club, similar to Dunfermline, who I played with as well. They're Premier League clubs for me. We are, you know, a big kind of town. So I'd love to see Falkirk coming back up. I think they play a great brand of football as well. I think they would be welcomed in the top flight. But they've got to shake Livingston off. As I said, that was a big result for Livingston to keep themselves in it. And the two styles for me, it's going to be great contrast between now and the end of the season. And as Ruffy says, who's going to go on that run? Who's going to go on the 10-15 game unbeaten run and effectively win the league? It's going to be one of the two of them for me.
One off between Falkirk and Livingston for you, Ali?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I'm going to go with Falkirk.
Just going to go with Falkirk. Well, certainly a division to keep our eye on. That's almost all we've got time for here on the Football Show this afternoon. The Scotland game is, of course, on later this evening. But if you're looking for all football content, you can look across our YouTube channel tomorrow. We've got the Women's Show coming out where Alison dissects that fiery Old Firm encounter of the weekend. I'm sure there's plenty to say about that one. We've got exclusive interviews coming up later in the week. And also, don't forget to take a look back at our interview with Tony Docherty on the Football Show last week. Some excellent insight for all Dundee fans out there. But that's us just out of time this afternoon. Thank you to Alan Ruff, Alison McConnell and Tam McManus for guiding me through my debut on the big couch today. I've been your host, Blair Malloy. Thank you for watching and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.